Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is our EV portion. I'm Pete Gruber.
Mark Schaffner, good morning. Welcome, everybody.
And as always, thanks for joining us. The picture behind us, we're an AI company, and that is a AI-generated image. It is a news studio we asked for with some automotive themes. So you can see some of the things on top. There's steering wheels, cars, right?
Yeah, I see regular wheels, and it is a new studio instead of a news studio.
Yeah, right.
But AI tries.
Mm-hmm. And so the headlines today are a fire at the Rivian Normal, Illinois plant. Apparently, this was called in Saturday night over the weekend at 9:45 p.m. And the plant assembles all of Rivian's current models and is on track to start creating the R2 SUV. And nothing inside the plant apparently was affected by the fire.
That is the very first thing I thought of when I saw this Sunday morning, that there was an overnight fire at the Rivian plant at Normal. And I thought, oh my gosh, they scrapped plans to build out their Georgia plant sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I wonder if everything's okay, and I wonder what's going to happen with the stock Monday.
Right. And that question actually was answered Monday morning when I thought, wouldn't it be an opportunity to short some Rivian stock at this point? Because it predictably is going to go down, right?
Sure.
It was up 1.44%.
That's great.
So the market dynamics completely confuse me. It's very much like Las Vegas, going there and gambling. It doesn't feel like anything predictable anymore,
I have to agree with you there. That's such a dramatic picture of that. The last I read, they determined there were 57 Rivians that were affected by that. And so you can see out on the edges, those are not all just black Rivians in that inset picture. Those are all charred husks of burned out Rivians. And the ones that aren't black are the only ones that weren't heavily damaged or destroyed.
Yeah. And as they say in the article here, however, when an EV ignites, it can be a lot more dangerous and dramatically harder for fire departments to put them out, especially if they're not equipped with necessary tools. Well, we have experience with EV fires, do we not?
I have way too much experience with EV fires.
Right. And, one thing that comes to mind here is in our first fire that we had in 2017. It was a Tesla Roadster battery pack, 6,831 lithium-ion cells inside, and 1,000 pounds of battery. We had left it inside the building, and it had ignited. And by the time the forklift got there to pull it out of the building, the flames were shooting out the top. It was about an 8-foot flame, and the radiant heat was so intense that our forklift driver just could not drive up to it to pick it up to take it outside. So yes, these fires are extremely volatile. Once they ignite, it's not like a common barbecue wood fire type thing, with normal combustion.
Yeah, we had found out that, wood fires, charcoal fires, your grill, your stuff like that, that's going to be anywhere from 700 to as much as 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. These lithium fires, they go from 1,400 to as much as 2,000 degrees plus Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're incredibly intense, incredibly hot. And the lithium, it's a chemical reaction that's causing the fire. And part of the byproduct of that chemical reaction, of course, is oxygen. So that's why it's so incredibly hard to put out these fires as well, because you don't just get to put it out. The chemical reaction will go until the battery gets cool enough for the chemical reaction to stop.
Which is the key word, by the way. Many of the fire departments, even after our fire, were inquisitive about how do we fight these things. This is a new phenomena. And water, it's cooling it down sufficiently is the main thing. They tried CO2, they tried foam, they tried, of course, some water, and finally said, we can't get a hold of Tesla. We're just going to back away because we have no idea how to fight this thing. They actually admitted that during our first fire.
Yeah, and the second fire, which we never found out the cause of that one. We don't think it was a battery fire, but there were cars in the building. On that one, they knew more about it at that point, and they used over 1 million gallons of water to fight that fire.
Yeah. 600 gallons a minute, and it was actually flooding the street going down to the west.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. But that's what it takes. Lots of cooling down and lots of water. And apparently, this is not the first fire that they've had at one of the Rivian facilities. Just last month, they say 3 Rivian Amazon electric delivery vans ignited at an e-commerce company's fulfillment center in Houston, Texas. The fire was unrelated to high voltage battery, according to Rivian. So interesting. We've got some questions coming in.
Yeah, Niels is with us from the Bion Danish Genome Institute.
Yeah, welcome.
Good morning. Good afternoon to you. He says they've overslept. I think it might be the idea that we didn't start right at exactly 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. And then you too, PYGKLB. Good morning from drizzling Western Oregon. Yeah, I'm hearing there's rain up in Colorado too. One of our customers was chiming in. By the way, those of you joining us this morning, at 11 o'clock, we're going to have the Tesla Roadster podcast. And again, EV related, but more focused on Tesla Roadsters.
You know, PYG, I'm jealous because we're about to hit our 93rd or 94th day in a row of 100 plus degrees.
Yeah. It seems hotter this year than it has been, but no surprises there.
Yeah.
So we've got a picture here we can throw up, Jesse. It's called EV Types. I thought this might be interesting for our audience. And what they present here is the types of electric vehicles. There's an HEV, for example, which is the hybrid electric vehicle. And that was what came out in the late 90s with the Prius.
That's the Toyota Prius and some of the Honda, early Honda hybrids. And it's one of the more popular hybrid styles out there.
Right. And it was a revolutionary car in many ways, in that everybody had been used for a century to, driving ICE engine cars. And what this acquainted us with was the notion that you could propel a car using an electric motor. Our first Prius, by the way, I would nurse it very gently, keep it under 30 miles an hour, and I was fascinated that I could go about a mile on the electric motor.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And the thing that always intrigued me about the Prius was the idea that you got better mileage in city than you did on the highway.
Right.
That's so unusual because, of course, if you're driving an ICE vehicle, you always get better mileage on the highway.
Right. And then, of course, came the PHEV, which was the plug-in hybrid vehicle. And there was the person I bought our Prius from was fairly technical. He says, you can modify this car and make it a plug-in. And here's how you do it. And it was pretty intrusive. You can avoid some warranties and all of that. So we never did it. But again, now, this was the next paradigm shift, I think. Not only can we go a little bit on electric, but we can actually recharge it, with using house power or whatever, which really was the template for what we have now, which is most people that own BEVs, battery electric vehicles, by the way, is the next category here, do most of their charging at home.
Yeah, the plug-in electric EV, we had a loaner. We had to take our car in for service, our Volvo. It was due for its 40,000-mile service. We got a Volvo, the XC60. It's one size up from ours, and it was a plug-in electric. Yeah, it was a nice drive.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the benefits of the electric vehicle. I could drive to and from work on just battery. Now, granted, it only had about a 40-mile range, so I would start with it full, drive here where it would be pretty much empty. But I could plug it in by the time it's time for lunch. My battery is full again. And you've got also the benefit of the fuel engine. So if you're going on any kind of longer trip, you just use the gasoline fuel.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that those are just such complicated systems.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was really a nice. I could see the person who wants to think about but has a little bit of range anxiety. They're not going to go wrong with that because most of their driving would be done on a battery.
No. And then, the performance of the BEVs. I got my first Roadster about 10 years ago or so. And I bought it from a friend of mine here in town who was very active in the car community, Stefan Russell. And this is a guy that didn't just drive your normal Chevy Fords. He had a Lamborghini Huracan. He had a Porsche 918 that he had flown in on a Lufthansa flight, right?
Wow.
He had a California Ferrari, right? So he was definitely a car aficionado, and he's the one that owned the Roadster that I bought. He had bought it from Bubba Watson, the famous golfer
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
time. I think he went into obscurity these days.
Yeah.
If
Bubba
anybody
Watson
knows him.
is largely retired and kind of out of the limelight now.
Yeah, okay. But I remember my first drive with Stefan in the Roadster, and he was very impressed with the performance. And he didn't warn me. He pegged the throttle, and it just threw me back in the seat. But yeah, so then comes the BEVs, and that's where we are now. Instagram, CUNY1 Gorel says, I had a Volvo XC90 PHEV.
Yeah, those Volvos are beautiful vehicles. Really love having our Volvo. I would really be interested when the Volvo EV90 comes out, or EC90, I think is what they call it now, for their fully electric 7-seat large Volvo. That's a beautiful car.
Mm-hmm. So, another news item here, and this one has a bit of controversy swirling. Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, is interested in being involved in former President Donald Trump's reelection campaign, but is simply too occupied with all of his business responsibilities. And I think that's the take that currently Donald is talking about.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Trump said on Sean Ryan's show that Musk wants to be involved in some capacity. My personal opinion is we desperately, badly need business people in the federal government. We've had way too many bureaucrats for too many decades that have really not understood the fundamentals of running something this large. The federal government, any government, is a corporation in so many ways.
Right.
Unfortunately, they are, nonprofits. They don't have any accountability. And I think that having people like Elon or other business people on the panel, including Donald Trump, for whatever you feel about Donald Trump, he is a businessman, definitely has some advantages versus these bureaucrats that have never really tasted and experienced the real world of business.
I we're going to be hiring a new controller here in the company soon. And the gentleman that we've hired has, during the interview with me, is working for a government agency right now. And had given his notice. The reason that he's leaving the government agency has to do with wins. He said, I'm working at a place where there's a water cooler at every desk.
Okay.
There is no desire, there's no drive, there's no ability to get wins. You come in, you do your job. It doesn't really matter how slow you do it, so everybody's slow. There's no sense of urgency,
Right.
and there's no real ability to win at anything.
Achieve, hustle, yeah.
All
Taste
yeah,
victory, yeah.
that's it, and it's driving him crazy. So
Uh-huh.
he was out looking for other work because he wants to be able to go into industry where you have the ability to work hard, get rewarded, and see wins come out of that
Make a difference.
to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you totally. Getting some more business people into the nonprofit of the federal government and having them begin to instill a culture of let's be as efficient as we can. Let's get some wins out of this. Wins are not going to come by the way of profits. Wins are going to come by the way of being able to do more with less.
Yeah. So getting back to the question, does Elon have enough bandwidth to participate on a cabinet position in the federal government, with whoever gets into office? My personal take on this is absolutely. Look at the deviations and the detours that he's taken with buying Twitter. And, he seems to spend so much time on social media. The bottom line here is that most people don't realize Elon's not running these companies. He was there in the early stages, but now he's got legions of talented people that are making all the magic happen. And we're tasting a bit of that even in our companies.
Yeah.
There are talented people that keep the machinery going, that are actually creating the magic. So, does Elon have enough time? I would certainly hope that he'll decide that he does and participate.
I know that the genesis of this whole idea was Trump and Elon's interview. And Trump mentioned it, and Elon even came out on X afterwards and said, "Hey, if you're up for it, I can make it happen." And that's the point at which Trump kind of backed away a little bit and said, "Well, Elon's a really busy guy, and I think he's going to be too busy to be able to do what it takes to serve on a cabinet post." I'm with you though. I think it would be both interesting and uh, valuable
Hmm.
to have Elon. Say Elon took over the Commerce Post. That would be a very valuable experience both for him and for our government. It would be very helpful.
And then, of course, other business leaders as well. We won't confine it to just Elon, but I would love to see some, you know, people within different areas of competence participate in running our country.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Mark, can you raise your mic just a little bit, please? Thank you.
So, another news item here is Tesla's Elon Musk shares the first look inside Cortex Supercluster at Giga, Texas. Remember, a couple of weeks ago we identified, and it was just released, what they're calling, what Elon is calling the supercomputer that he's building in Giga, Texas, and the amount of hardware that's going in here is staggering. We've got some pictures here, I believe. Huh. Cortex One. It looks like it's a Photoshop file. Can you bring that up? Let me convert it then. All right. While I'm converting.
Well, while you're converting that, yeah, here's what I have learned about Cortex while you're doing the conversion, and I've kind of the what and the why. Starting with why, AI. Okay, and not just artificial intelligence or artificial intelligence, massive, fast, super intelligent AI is needed for full self-driving.
Mm-hmm.
This type of AI is needed for robotaxis. Tesla is taking the video and the images that are coming in from their full self-driving, all the tests and the billions of miles, and they're running it through this AI to put together the most human-like driving experience possible while still keeping it as quality driving, not let some of our humans drive like.
Right.
With Tesla's focus on those two items, AI is the solution to that problem. And so, as a result, AI becomes central to Tesla's strategy. The Optimus project is more of an outcropping or an outgrowth of the AI project. Hey, we've got this great, really powerful AI that we need to put in our cars. What else could we do with that AI, all of that horsepower? And then Optimus becomes as an offshoot from that. On the what? 100,000 NVIDIA H100 and H200 GPUs working together in a supercomputer environment. And the power usage, I know we've talked about this before, but it still blew me away. 500 megawatts of power. Electrek had a really good article on that, where they said the smart people have done the number crunching. A football stadium uses 5 megawatts of power. So that means one large concentrated computer server room is using enough power to power 100 football stadiums.
Amazing. Yeah, those statistics kind of bring it home. The image is ready, Jesse. It's Cortex-1. And what I found fascinating about this image, and this is just one glimpse, there's actually a video that is posted if you're interested in finding more information. Just Google Cortex-1. What you're seeing here is, of course, access floor, raised floor, 19-inch racks, cabinets filled with hardware, cable management panels, Category 5 cables. There's some ladder racks up on top. What's fascinating about this to us is this is stuff we manufacture.
That is our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Other than the actual servers themselves, there's very little in that picture that we don't manufacture or sell to people.
And then support as well, because somewhere here you're going to have multiple equipment rooms, electrical rooms basically, that house the critical power equipment that keeps all this running during power outages and cleans the power. And that, of course, is Gruber Power Services, servicing critical power all over
Yeah.
the United States.
I thought the concept that they have in here of their cool aisles being enclosed, that there's a roof over this aisle with the front of these servers here,
Mhm.
and there are glass doors in the front of it as well. And all the cooling, those grates that guy is standing on, those have little holes in them. That's where the cooling is
Right.
coming up through.
Vent tiles,
They're
yes.
they're vent tiles, and so they keep that enclosed to help make sure that the airflow is as concentrated as possible going through those server racks from cool to hot.
Mhm.
Uh, that to me, that was fascinating because that's unusual. I haven't seen that in many data centers before.
Yeah. And that's, of course, the advantages of having access floor or raised floor, as it's also called, is that as you move equipment, you can move vent tiles around to relocate your heat loads and take care of your heat. As I say in this article, and as you mentioned, Cortex is not just another supercomputer, it is the backbone of our AI driven future. And the things that they mention here is the Optimus humanoid robot project is going to need a lot of this kind of compute power. And then, of course, the Robotaxi, which is actually one of the next articles here.
Yeah.
It looks like there's an imminent release.
Well, and you see, what I like is that you see Tesla going in the route of what would seem to be two unrelated businesses. And now you open up the covers, look just a little deeper beyond the surface, and you realize, no, they're not unrelated at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than what we've done with Gruber Power Services being an offshoot of Gruber Industries. Seems like a completely different business, but as you can see from talking here, it's not.
Yeah.
Gruber Motors, same thing. The short reason is an electric car is a UPS on wheels.
Right.
It's all the same technology.
So the planned synergy was there from the very get-go, and we've just watched the markets evolve and grow.
Yeah, exactly. And to see a company like Tesla use that same kind of synergy, that's part of what to me makes Tesla really an amazing company because you don't see that very often.
Inspiring, yep, in many ways. Looks like a bunch of comments here. Niels is saying, yes, any leader must have 5 to 10 years of experience within the area that they are leader of. Trump businessman? Question mark. Nah. His leaked tax returns show that he has just wasted his inherited money. Now, Niels is not even in the United States, mind you.
I
He's in
understand.
Denmark, and he's weighing in on our political situation. YouTube PYGKLB says, I call the Prius a gateway vehicle. Gets you used to better mileage.
That's a great point, PYG.
Yeah.
The gateway concept. I mean, we went our first electric vehicle for my wife and I was that little Kia Soul.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got that from the testing agency here in town.
Yes. We got it from the testing agency. Your son Peter bought one. I bought its twin, and all 85 or 90 miles of range that it had. And we found that it was very easy to work around its range restrictions because we had a gas vehicle as well. But by the time we had owned that for a couple of years, we're like, we're never going back. We will, if at all possible, we will never buy a non-electric vehicle again. So far, that's been the case.
Yeah. Great technology. Right.
On TikTok, Maria Sunday says, will the phantom braking finally end with this new AI system? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
the seemingly random brakes in the full self-driving, I don't know if it will or not.
there are always technical challenges, and nothing is perfect first go around. So yeah, we're expecting it to improve, though.
We're expecting it to improve. The difference between a master and an apprentice is that the master knows that there's so much more that he doesn't know than the apprentice does. And you
Right.
could say the same thing with AI.
Yeah, good point. Niels is saying, why not have the hungry data centers where electricity cost is negative? Computers can be suspended when the cost is not near free. We often have free electricity, and with more storage, less cost.
That's a great point. There are two areas where data centers could be stationed in our country, and I think a lot of them are. For example, Google, it generates all of its own power via hydroelectric.
Mhm.
It has and they've gone so far as to not even pull alternating current off the grid. They're located so close to their hydroelectric power plant that they have wired the DC power to come straight into their battery storage systems to be conditioned and then inverted into AC power for their servers.
Interesting. Google also, and we reported this in the last Critical Power podcast, took a data center, built it out, and then sunk it under off the coast of Scotland, 140 feet down, to capture the cool water that's at that level.
Sure.
And they were experimenting with, finding more efficient ways and, less intrusive ways to cool these data centers.
I know Microsoft has experimented with that, and to Niels's point as well, solar power in the southern states is an amazing way to capture energy and be able to use it at zero or near zero cost.
Yeah. So Elon just dropped another bombshell, according to this article. I have an image we can pop up here, Jesse. It's called Robotaxi. And the first thing that impressed me was the proposed design, at least on this particular article. Now, I don't know whether this is a AI image or whether this was Tesla release, so you be the judge. But this particular image looks to me to be a combination of Cybertruck and new Tesla Roadster, kind of small, wedge shaped, slanted a bit. But anyway, the way the article reads here is Tesla's long awaited Robotaxi is finally here, and it's coming out of Giga, Texas. He confirmed apparently this last week that this revolutionary unboxed production process is in full swing. So they're starting to build things. And they say this isn't just a car, it's the future of transportation being built right now. The excitement is real, and all eyes are on Tesla as it gears up to reshape the world with this game-changing innovation.
The last that I've heard is that they're going to have a reveal event on October 10th.
Okay, that's just around the
coming.
corner.
That's
Yeah.
coming up around the corner. So I'm very interested to see what happens. I would guess that this is an AI generated image, but I won't say that for sure. It's a very interesting look. The idea of what they have learned from the Cybertruck and how strong it is with its stainless steel, I think would make a lot of sense for something like something that would get abused like a taxi to have stainless steel.
Yeah. And we're already starting to warm up to this concept of driverless cars. Here in Phoenix, for example, it's not uncommon out on the east side of Phoenix to see the Waymo vehicles
Right.
traversing on the roads. And I find it fascinating that we are psychologically beginning to warm up to these new concepts in a very unusual way, and people are starting to take it for granted. You see one of those, oh, there's another one of those Waymos, watch, I wonder if it sees the pedestrian, and we all look to see to make sure, that it's not going to run over a cat or, do something crazy.
And of all things, my wife and I have talked about the Waymos, and her attitude has changed a little bit from I can't believe that there's a car out there driving without a driver to I can't wait till they get over to our side of town so I can try taking one.
Right, yeah. So a robotaxi, yes. I think this is another revolutionary product. It's if you think of all the ramifications of having vehicles now en masse out there, not only driving around doing testing, but actually performing useful functions such as shuttling people,
Yeah.
picking up your DoorDash food or whatever, Yeah, this is another game changer. Niels is saying, we're talking about data centers now. He says, regarding cooling, or even put data centers on barges. Then they can be moved, and cooling is no problem, except for the salt water, maybe.
And I would say that's a very much a maybe and not a definite.
Mhm.
You don't have to put the data centers and the computers up high above water level. You could set those down in the hull where there's a lot of natural water cooling already going on,
Mm.
and it gives your data center barge that would give your data center barge a lot of stability as well.
Right. Question then becomes, with the enormous amount of heat that needs to be dissipated, like that 500 megawatts that you were talking about, what impact does this have on global warming? We've already got, melts in the North and South Pole that are, melting icebergs, and glaciers are receding. And so that has to have an impact. I mean, we're warming the water, basically.
Yes, but the vast majority of that energy has already come from the sun to our planet, and we're simply repurposing the energy that's already here.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So there might be there. Yes, I'm sure there will be some impact, especially locally, the very local environment. If you have a bubble of 100 meters or something like that all around a barge that's 2 or 3 degrees warmer than everywhere else around, you're going to change that microenvironment. But in the bigger picture, maybe less than you would think.
And let's not forget that in the world of engineering and design, heat is an undesirable, inefficient aspect. The goal is to remove the generation of heat, create better superconductors,
Right.
and I think that is going to resolve this eventually. Anytime you have heat, it is wasted energy.
Exactly.
All right, we're coming up on our half hour here, and I wanted to leave you with a George Carlin impersonation. Let's see if I can do this, all right?
Okay.
Have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anybody going faster than you is a maniac?
Well, where does that leave me then? Because I drive around a bunch of idiots.
We miss George. I mean, he was definitely a colorful character, and he wasn't for the faint of heart. It's not like you could bring the kids in and say, let's watch George Carlin, right?
That is true. That is true.
But there was a great mind that is now gone, and quite an inspiration in many ways. Well, we really appreciate you joining us in 30 minutes, 28 minutes actually, the Tesla Roadster podcast. We switched to that, and we've got an interesting announcement, which is an abandonment of an engineering project that we undertook for the NACS conversion for Roadsters. And in that podcast, we'll tell you exactly why. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Take care.